And this work is a component 1 personal investigation, investigating the interconnectivity of textiles, fashion and culture. So this student started the project initially by creating a sketchbook where she started to investigate embroidery and embellishment in fashion and costume. She then progressed to looking at artists and designers who do use these techniques, particularly the embroidery into surfaces, etc. There's some really lovely examples of some embroidery and plique, etc. So she's looking at lots of different designers, fashion designers, traditional garments, historic garments, looking at how embellishment on fashion was used with royalty and people that had lots of money. Also looking at some couture fashion and responding with lots of heavy decorative embroidery. She also looked at botanical studies of plants and again did her own studies of plants and transferred these to fabric for experimental purposes. As part of the project you have to go on a visit, so this student went to the Gallery of Costume in Manchester, just Platt Hall, and recorded some of the embellishments and decorations there too. Again, she responded with her own samples. She started to think about the illustration side of things and added some elements to her sketchbook, but this progresses into the portfolio, which I'll show you in a second. The other thing that was really interesting about this project was that she wanted to connect some of her own culture and connect to the fashion garments historically in the Philippines. So she was looking at large sleeves, she was looking at oversized collars, and she wanted to incorporate some of those things into her own work. So she analysed those, looked at further embroidery artists, and then this was a rough plan for her ideas. At that point we move into the portfolio. So these are some of her botanical studies, which she's done with great skill, using lots of different media. She starts to consider them as pattern designs and in repetition, both in black and white in line and also in colour. She also uses some photography to support evidence of her work, and then comes up with 2 possible plans for development. One mood board that she suggests is tropical and the other botanical. She then starts to explore through sampling, using all of the techniques that she's seen previously. So we've got things like machine embroidery on sheer fabrics, we've got using alcohol pens on top of machine embroidery, we've got heat transfer, we've got a plique, she's got some woven techniques in the background here. She's drawing directly onto the fabric with pens, with fabric markers. She's doing some reverse applique and some cording on this one, beading and embellishment on some of these, and some dissolvable muslin work where you stitch onto a thin plastic very heavily and then dissolve it afterwards just to leave the stitch. After that, she developed some fashion illustrations to show how these embroideries and surfaces could be used, linking back to the Philippine culture of the large sleeves and the large collars as well. So we've got one there. So these are some of her designs. Until she comes up with this as her final design, and she puts evidence of her favourite sampling techniques that she will use. This is actually the design that she makes, and some close-up shots of the actual jacket, which I'll show you in a second. In support of this, she also has to produce an essay between 1,000 and 3,000 words, and the language and the skill that she uses in this is exceptional. It's for these reasons that she's awarded an A-star. The final garment that the student makes is quite plain at the front, but you can see it's got the large collar and the full sleeves that she's constructed in here to match her cultural heritage. Also, as you spin the garment round, you'll see that most of the detailing is on the back of the garment, and that relates to one of the designers that she was referencing in her work. You can see all of the details that we discussed earlier. So a lot of the techniques, the dissolvable muslin, the machine embroidery, the embellishment, the heat transferring, the reverse applique. There's lots of different techniques. Some of it's hand painted in between, but again, it's of an exceptionally high standard to meet that A-star grade.